Hey everyone, I received 3+ job offers in 2024 while still being enrolled in college. First things first, you need to have the right mindset going into this. I have an easy to remember system to prepare for this. That is the GPR system. Go practice right now. The G, gather info. This should take no more than 15 minutes. I want you to streamline this and pick only one person to learn from. This is so you don't overthink the process of interview prep because there is a lot of contradictory information. Practice. This should be 30 to 60 minutes of your day. I want you to carve this 30 to 60 minutes out of your day every day so you can practice the questions, understand the questions, figure out which way the question can be reworded and presented to you. And I also want you to learn how to answer the questions in a way that sounds natural for you. R is revise. This should take 15 minutes or less. Go through and see what areas you are struggling and focus on this. See if you can rearrange your answers and put them in a way or frame them in a way that makes more sense. And again, like I said earlier, sounds more natural to you. If the scenario you are talking about and trying to describe to the interviewer doesn't come off as fluid or naturally, maybe you should think of another one or try and reframe it and reposition it from a different angle, just so it sounds better. Now that we understand GPR, let's get to the next part. Tell me about yourself or something along the lines of that. I really want you to understand that every interview starts with this question and it's going to be asked in a variety of different ways. This is your chance to explain your work experience from the beginning to now. Here's an example for you. Of course, as you can see in my resume, I started off with bookkeeping for a property management firm using QuickBooks. This sparked my interest in accounting and I decided to enroll in school while working to further my understanding. From there, I accepted another position as an accounting clerk where I took from my past experience and school to help support the day-to-day accounting operations. That's what brings me here today, where I'm excited to hear about this role. Make sure you communicate your natural progression from the first role to now in a way that makes sense to the hiring manager. And another question that I get a lot of the times is, how long does this need to last? Honestly, it can be as short or long as you want, but typically it lasts anywhere from 45 to 1 minute. Don't stress out on it, just be natural and really rehearse this and understand it like the back of your hand. So now that we got that main interview question that stumps everyone out of the way, I want to go over 3 common interview questions and examples that'll help you understand the process and format of interviewing. Tell me about a time where you had to deal with a difficult coworker. Now, I want to give you some time to pause the video, think, and give me a good reply in your head, and then play it and see how I answer this. I had a coworker who disagreed on a key process that was implemented by the team. I set aside time to understand his perspective and try to understand where the resistance was coming from. And we uncovered together that he had an outdated process checklist which he referred to, which caused the majority of the confusion. I listened to his concerns, then I expressed mine, and we decided to come up with a newer checklist since the most current one that we were using hasn't been reviewed in a few months. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I see myself in a senior accounting role with a little bit more responsibility and hopefully in a position where I am educating and teaching the junior accountants that come on board. With this one, I want you to know that this is not the time to describe that, hey, I want to go start my own business, or hey, I want to go to the next position. Don't make it seem like the job is the stepping stone, because that will turn off any employer and they'll basically throw your resume out the door. I want you to communicate that you are looking to be at a firm for a longer term and develop your skills. Companies nowadays, they are looking for people that are loyal and that will be able to understand their process and provide value to the team over time. Making sure to communicate a longer time frame and being honest with your intentions is the best thing to do. Why do you want to work for this company? This is a question that many people often overlook. Yes, of course, you want to work for a company that has a great company culture. However, if you read between the lines, The real question that they're asking you is, what can you provide to this company that makes you valuable? This is your part where you go through the job description and you tell them how all of your skills align. This is your chance to sell yourself. So for example, if the job description is saying we're looking for someone that is a master at Excel, they know this accounting software, and they are good at reporting, I want you to go through line by line and say, hey, you're looking for someone that's good with Excel. At my previous experience, I used Excel to do XYZ. On top of that, you're looking for someone that's good with QuickBooks. I use QuickBooks at the property management firm I talked about earlier when I was walking them through my resume. And then you want someone that's good at reporting? Well, at my other position, I didn't technically do reporting. However, there was a lot of times where I had to present PowerPoint presentations with a lot of key figures and financials that mattered to the decision makers. Even if you don't have direct experience in the role, I want you to kind of play up your experience. You have that experience. We know that when we get a job, there's some things the job is going to make you do that, that isn't directly for the job description. However, if there was one time you helped your manager oversee the books or something, or there's some key process here and there where you help with the logistics of inventory, you can play that up for your advantage because you actually did it. Another key thing I want to bring up, especially for people going to WGU, what this channel is mostly about, is you might have to address the point that you are currently in college, that you have not received your degree. I know a lot of the times hiring managers will ask about that. However, if you're in the position that I was, I would say, hey, I'm very close to finishing my degree and I have all of this work experience and I'm going to night school. I can handle this and not let the school interfere with the job. This will put hiring managers at ease because you are communicating that you won't be doing your schoolwork on the job. Like, you have to make it clear that there's a separation from work and school life. It'll be a win-win for both you and the manager. You'll be able to get experience while going to school, and you'll be able to apply the concepts that you're learning on the job. For their hiring manager, they'll have someone that is willing and motivated to learn the processes and potentially save them some money because you can hire them at a lower cost because they don't have the degree yet. And in a few months, their investments will pay off because you will have a degree once you graduate. Additionally, while you're talking to these hiring managers, I want you to try to be a little bit more personable as well. They are hiring someone without a degree, so you have to make sure that you fit the company culture and that you give them a good feeling that they're making the right decision choosing you. When you get towards the end of the interview, I want you to ask the hiring managers some engaging and personable questions. I want you to ask things like, what does it take for someone in this position to be successful? They will again go through the job description and job requirements. However, this is showing that you're being really attentive and you're engaging within the interview. On top of that, you're expressing a desire that you want to work there. I know it seems like common sense, but you have to verbally communicate that you want the role. Going to an interview and just showing up isn't enough. You have to verbally tell them and ask questions that are engaging in a way that makes them feel like you want this position. Another good question to ask is, how is our performance graded? You want to know the metrics and the standards that your performance is graded off of, so you know what you need to be looking at and how you need to be performing within the role. Another thing I like to ask is, how do you like working at this company? Ask them for the personal experience. A lot of people, basically everyone likes to talk about themselves. So ask them about themselves, see what they think of the company, and see if you can get anything insightful from that, or even make another conversation based off what they said. At this point, I want you to open up the conversation with the hiring manager and just have them talk to you. You just sat there interviewing for however many minutes. I want you to learn about them. Just have normal conversation, make small talk. Like, you're gonna be working with them for 8 hours a day, every day. You're going to want to see if you wanna work with them, and they're gonna wanna see, is this someone I can talk to? They're gonna probably try and think about, can I do the airport test with them? If I was stuck in the airport with them for an afternoon, Can I hold a conversation with them? Would it be unbearable? You have to keep these things in mind. You want to make it feel less like an interview and more like a back and forth conversation with a friend. Another thing I want you to know, just because an interviewer isn't saying much or isn't opening as much to you, that doesn't mean you did bad at the interview. It just means that, hey, maybe they like to keep their professional and personal life separate, or they have any reason under the sun. That's not the only determining factor if you did good in an interview or not, because really the only way you'll know is if you get that call back to do another interview, or if you get that offer letter. And one last thing, I want you to take it to a really personal level. Beyond work, my favorite question to ask is, do you like this team or that team? Everyone can relate to sports, and I know in some states they have certain rivalries that go back and forth, and if you can ask them what their allegiance is to what team, that's a good way to break the ice and get them to open up and potentially find out more about them. You want to make it feel less like an interview and more like a conversation. Also make it more personable, so when you do send that email, that thank you email for giving me your time, they'll be able to remember you a little bit more than everyone else that they're going through interviews with. After you go through the interview, all I want you to do is get their emails so you can send a thank you and leave it at that. Do not pester the hiring manager or interviewer about when I'm gonna hear back from you, did I get the job or anything. That's the last thing anyone wants, and that honestly pushes people away. Just say thank you, bring up something personable in the interview, and leave it at that. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, move on to the next. This was a high-level overview of how to go through an interview and manage it while you are going to school full-time. There really isn't any difference. One thing I like to do if I'm currently working a full-time job is I will schedule these interviews around lunch, and if I can't do that, I will try to ask my job that I'm currently at if I can take a later lunch, and I'll do the interviews within then. Also, you might have to take some PTO to work around that and interview. I know that is hard, but you want to try and stack as many interviews as you can, as many opportunities you can to try and get a job while going to school full time. The reason for this is because it's not going to take one interview and then you get a job. That's very far and few between. A lot of times, like in my personal experience, I probably had to interview for 30 plus jobs before I got these 3 offers. So I want you to really, really get into the interview mindset, really fall in love with the process, the GPR, because you need to do that every day. The main thing that I see that people fail on when they go to interviews is they just go blank. They don't really practice, so they don't have the confidence to pull through and communicate what they need to communicate in their interview. It's not a fact that they're qualified or not for the job, because more likely you got the call to go interview. You need to be able to communicate that. That's why I suggest take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours if you even need to practice these interview questions. I know that these were just 3 questions, but I really want you to go above and beyond. Practice the format of listening to an answer, not saying anything, taking a moment to think. Don't cut off the interviewer, but then responding in a way that is tailored but sounds natural to you. So the way to do that is you need to sit down and practice. Even with me, I would drive my partner crazy. I would ask them to do interview questions with me every single night, and I would go through the same interview questions. However, this is the reason I was able to get multiple offers, because I knew how to interview like the back of my hand. I knew how to work around every single question. I knew what questions they were asking without directly asking it. You need to follow these process, and you need to stay at it, because that one job can change your life forever. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.